time for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day, alongside D. Gully.
Yo, what's up?
Here's what's happening. 0-16. Let me repeat that. 0-16. And not just 0-16, a winless
for the entire season
for the Cleveland Browns, but a celebration or parade to go along with. Now, a parade or a celebration, in my estimation, is asinine or bass-ackwards. Because my question has been, and will always be, whenever this subject is broached or discussed again, what was the point or is the point of celebrating a winless season?
It appears as we're celebrating a winless season, but it's more or less a facetious or sarcastic admonishment of a winless season. It's a capstone on the frustration that every Browns fan has experienced in the 2 decades that they've returned, outside of one winning season in 2007 and the other winning season in 2002. But other than that, all the miscues and firings and hirings and bad selections in the drafts and bad trades, all of that ineptitude is capstone by the fact that you did not win an entire game in this regular season. And that sets a historic precedent.
It's historic in what sense? Because they actually went, because in other words, the Browns, if you look at their history, have a plethora of historic negativity. This one right here, why does this one stand out as the one to say, okay, we're doing what? Again, this parade serves what purpose? To send a message to Jimmy Haslam and ownership and all those folks connected that we are sick and tired of it? That's the effort. Yeah, that's what the intent is. I don't know how effective that would be, but I can understand the intent, and I can understand why it took now to have that parade. I can understand how we got here. But prior to having this parade, they have given you, the Browns have, for fans, more than enough to have celebrated negativity.
Well, yeah, you don't have a parade because you can't pick a quarterback, though. You don't have a parade because you won at 15. Okay, because a lot of teams go 1-15.
No. The parade is for Ofer.
Yes, for Ofer for the entire season. Ofer.
Okay, but I'm saying to you, if you look at the Browns, pick whichever pick you can. There's plenty of Ofers to pick from, to celebrate, to send a message, to make a statement. No, we're not going to stand for this anymore. Let me explain something to you. The folks in Jimmy Haslam's arena, or those type, they could care less, because this parade or celebration of, or whatever the case may be, is an emotion. And the Browns, regardless of who's owned them, how many regime changes, the Browns and all the Cleveland sports teams really in this town have played more than the Browns, more so, have played off the emotions of fans for far too long. You want to send a message to Haslam that you're done with him and the product that the putrid product that he keeps putting out on the field, stop paying for it. Because the parade, in essence, is a moot point if you turn right round this upcoming season and go back down there and pay for it again, to sit there in this stadium. Overpayment is what I'd like to say. But parking, eating, drinking, my gosh.
And merchandise buying.
My goodness. Look, the Browns are a product.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And I challenge any fan that still supports the Browns, that's fine if you want to, from afar.
Okay.
With your hand in your pocket still.
Okay.
But I challenge any fan to tell me that, like with any product you invest in, You're not going to continue to purchase a product when every time you open a box, what's in it ain't what you paid for. We're talking basic economics 101.
Right about that. So I think the point that I have in terms of the parade, which I don't initially have a problem with because it was outside of my control. I understand. I'm more sympathetic to the idea of having a parade because I understand how it got here. My caution is understanding that by having a parade, the Browns fans who wanted to do this, wanted to celebrate in it, they have to understand really what are they risking, what message are they sending, and I think they need to clarify that, and then there needs to be follow through. Otherwise, the parade has only made it worse for the organization to ever really rebuild because there is no incentive.
Okay.
I think to your point, there's no incentive because you had to take.
It took
fairly certain that
0-16 to send a message. Really?
Well,
Wow.
the fact that it got to 0-16 and it's in the message, I'm saying they've already done it. This is what the parade has happened. Like it's not even a speculation. Like they've done it already. So they waited to 0-16 to send a message. It could in fact be. I don't see it's never too late because the Browns will continue to exist. But if you decided to send a message at 0-16, you have to understand again what you risked by sending the message this way and follow through. Here's what they risked.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so.
Because I'm going to say one last thing on this, and then we're going to go to something else.
All right, real quickly. What they wanted to do was tell the ownership and the team and the leadership that they're not going to stand for this ineptitude anymore. You did this by admonishing the on-field product. You did this by professionally or personally, perhaps, disrespecting Browns players. So maybe the linebackers on the Browns aren't the subject of dispute, if you will. Okay, but you just pissed off your linebacker team. So you have the players who actually are on the field to get the wins and losses at a position where they have really no incentive to want to perform professionally. They get paid. So you're gonna have guys that's gonna decide, like, hey, do I really want to put up with this from Cleveland when they winless anyway? And this is how they do, right?
Right. Okay, but look.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there were people who, in response to this back and forth we had on Facebook with them, and this parade or whatever it is, said that they're not celebrating losing. They're sending a message, like we just said here, to management. Again,
right.
The best way to send the message to management is to not pay for it. Because to me, a parade is rhetoric. Again, folks in the Haslam's arena, they're only concerned with dollars and cents, period.
You're absolutely right.
Capitalism.
That's what I'm talking about when it comes to the follow through. You're right. It's
But
all right, the parade is an emotional response. Like they're so tired, so sick and tired. And now the team is so historically bad, they decided to have a parade to voice that frustration. It's an emotional response. And we all know personally how emotional responses can get you into trouble, whether it's an emotional response to a good thing or an emotional response to a bad thing. This one here is a bad thing. The Browns are winless. This is an emotional response to it. Can't change that it happened. I would prefer it not to happen. But to your point and my point exactly, if you're going to respond this way, you need to clarify what it is you were trying to do, and you need to stop supporting the product. So don't buy season tickets in the same level that you've been buying since 1999. Yeah, don't buy merchandise or jerseys in the same level you've been buying since 1999.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this lastly.
All right.
The end result ain't going to be what it's supposed to be, because the Browns and their fans, more importantly, their track record says that it ain't going to be. That's my point. Yes, it should be some follow through, but we all know, because these folks bleed brown and orange, that it ain't going to be. So in the end, the parade served what purpose? None, nada whatsoever.
Unless you can heed the advice and move and follow it through. And I think that's to your point.
They won't. Okay, so let's and they won't. History shows that they won't. That's my point. Okay. Right. Now, let's dive into a post that I saw. I don't know if you saw it. Okay. I saw this post on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Michael Duncan runs how can I say? He runs a AAU program.
Okay.
Okay. And he's a Facebook friend of mine, AAU basketball program. And
Okay.
it's an Adidas program. You check it out. He's actually very well noted throughout the AAU basketball circuit. His program is very, very well established and respected and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But every now and again, he'll post something that I'll like or share or whatever it is because the guys, even though basketball is his niche or his thing, he's got a sports mind, okay? And you know me, I'm not going to post or repost or share anything that has that makes no sense, okay? Now,
All
we
right.
can differ in our opinions, about this and that. Not you and I. I'm just saying in general, people in general. That's fine. That's to be expected. That's what makes life, it gives it that zeal, so to speak. You disagree or I agree and so on and so forth. But there are some things that are not, like I like to say, gender specific, or there's incumbent upon all people, regardless of whether we agree or not. Truth is truth.
All right.
And there's been this ongoing discussion, and I'm surprised at all of the feedback, the amount and the volume of feedback that this subject in particular has gotten over the years, because it's a never-ending question, and it seems like the answers just won't, they just won't stop coming. And that's the subject or the question of whether or not college athletes should be paid. Now, what Michael Duncan posted, this was after the college football national championship, and kudos to Alabama for pulling it out in the last second. Shame on you, Georgia, for blowing the coverage in the cover two, but the guy did look the safety off. But anyway, Michael Duncan posts, Alabama's coaches, and I hope he ain't going to get mad at me for repeating this or whatever, but I just thought it was just something that should be discussed. And it sort of kind of like just puts the nail in the coffin of, or in favor of, college athletes being paid. He says Alabama's coaches will receive $1.27 million in bonuses for winning the title. The players get zero. And in this post, he listed some of the staff and what their salaries were, I guess, in regards to this whole championship thing. I'm not going to mention any names, but just the numbers and the title of these particular people. The defensive coordinator, I don't know if it's for Alabama or Georgia. I don't know. It doesn't say here. It just says defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator made $234,000. The offensive coordinator made $216,000. The co-defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, made $171,000. And then whoever goes to look this up, they'll see the names and then they'll know which team these names or these guys are associated with. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, understood.
But anyway, the co-offensive coordinator made $108,000. The head coach made $100,000. Strength coach made $96,000 and some change. The running backs coach made $88,000. Secondary coach made $72,900.
Are you talking about just for that game?
That's what it looks like. Derek, I'm sorry, excuse me. See, I wish you hadn't done that. But anyway, I didn't mention his last name. So good. Did I say the running backs coach made $88,000 plus and some change?
Yeah.
Okay. The secondary coach made $72,900. The offensive line coach made $72,000. Special teams / tight ends coach made $67,000 and some change. And the defensive line coach made $49,000 and some change.
And
now,
these are not annual salaries. This is just for that game that we watched on Monday.
That's what it appears to be. I'm glad you're asking that because I'm not too sure. But, and we can do some more research on this and discuss this at a later date. But just to put it out there, this here is enough to say, or at least to, again, drive or should college athletes be given some sort of compensation, that kind of, like a race, should they not or should they? This should they has kind of maybe got out in front a little bit, based off what I just read to you right here.
Certainly.
And I'll say this. At the end of the day, a guy like Nick Saban, now I will mention his name, in terms of his tenure and dollars associated with it, okay? I don't know what his deal is in particular, But let's just say he's got a 5-year, $15 million deal from Alabama.
Okay.
Okay. His contract is guaranteed. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
And you mean to tell me that the guy who coaches the team and these players on these teams, while not insignificant, you understand? I get it why Nick Saban is Nick Saban, okay? But there ain't no Nick Saban is my point. If it ain't no Ridley or no Trent Richardson. Trash, I know. Derrick Henry.
Well, not in college, but to your point.
You get what I'm saying? So that in and of itself would suggest, wait a minute, we maybe need to look longer and harder and really literally and be ready to make a move on somehow, some way compensating.
At a base level, I feel like this when it comes to coaches. My most basic argument is, if you sliced in half every college football, NCAA, Division 1A or whatever it's called, if you sliced in half their salary with the other half being distributed in some form or some measure amongst the actual players on the team, these coaches are still making life-changing income. They're not going to weigh the difference between coaching in college and then being on some board of executives in some background, whatever degree that they have. You're still talking about Nick Saban, whose total pay this year is $11.1 million. If you slice that in half and the other half went to the players on the field in terms of some type of structured compensation or deferred compensation that happens once they complete school or turn 25 or something like that, he'd still be making $5 million. He still would be the biggest or highest paid coach in the game if you sliced everybody in half. So the idea that the money isn't there is trash. It's pathetic. It's deceitful. It's dishonest. It's distasteful, and it's
disgusting.
Disgusting, yeah.
It's disgusting because here's the deal. Some who would argue that they shouldn't, and that's again college athletes, be compensated. The primary or the premise of their argument is, or the thing they start with first is, they're getting a free education. No, it's not. They're not getting a free education. Now, they might not have to pay for it, but that education that they're getting that they themselves literally didn't have to come out of pocket for is being paid by someone somewhere. So it's not free. Somewhere along the line, it's costing somebody something. Do you understand?
Exactly.
And it pales the value of that education. Let's say a kid goes 4 years, okay, and graduates. We're not talking masters, and so we're just saying bachelors or whatever the case may be.
Right.
The cost of that education pales in comparison to 1 year of what a college coach is making guaranteed.
And for what it's worth, he is a student athlete. What is Nick Saban? A head coach. That student athlete has to be a student and an athlete and perform both of those roles in equal measure with equal amount of dedication or whatever.
That's
dedication.
A good way of looking at that. Yeah.
Okay. And they don't get any compensation outside of the cost to go to school or the little grab bags that the Orange Bowl may give them that might have a PlayStation 4 or some tickets to Outback. That's really dishonest. That's embarrassing. College players, I tell you what though, I do understand that there is something about maybe paying a college athlete while he's in school. I mean, you get a professional is compensated or what have you. But here's my point. The money is there to be able to provide them with an incentive if they want to go to school just to play football at Alabama because it increases their chance of maybe going to the NFL. Defer the compensation. Maybe you don't give it to him when he's in school. Maybe you set this up such like a structured, maybe, I don't know if annuity would be the term, but like a deferred compensation.
Almost like a trust.
Like a trust, exactly. Where his they could get practice on how to negotiate as NFL players by maybe working with a team or advisors to say, hey, listen, if I get this amount of yards, I'll get this added to my trust that when I graduate at the end of 4 years or I turn 25, the trust will be forwarded to me because I have earned that while being a student athlete, while being unpaid during the time in which I earn it. Nick Saban get to keep his money. All the revenue get to come in. Because remember, I don't see anybody buying Nick Saban jerseys. I've never seen a Nick Saban jersey sold at any college retail store. Have never seen an Urban Meyer jersey, but I've seen Ezekiel Elliott's. I've seen AJ Hawks, okay? I've seen Maurice Claret, remember way back long ago. I see those jerseys.
Yeah, and let me, you said something that triggered a thought here. Let me say there are also people who are on the side of that college athletes shouldn't, that will say, these kids need to learn the standard and they need to learn, values and principles and so on and so forth. And by paying them, you're somehow taking away from, that learning experience, or as we might say in our own homes or households, home training, if you would. Well, let me say this. For those people who are getting paid off of these athletes, once again, how is it? We're talking about leveling the playing field. Because if you're going to say that the student athlete who without there would be no Nick Saban and probably no NCAA is undeserving, how is the playing field leveled? And you're saying that the coaches, they do deserve the monies or whatever the case that comes with the star power and so on and so forth. It makes no sense.
Right. Why does Nick Saban, or let's not single him out, because you know what? He's the highest paid, but he ain't the only one. Let's take Rich Rodriguez in Arizona.
Right, but hold on. But let me finish the second part of this.
Yeah.
They say that, these people, they say that the athletes should be, they of course should be appreciative of the way that this model is set up or whatever the case may be, because, again, they're getting free education. But I say on the other side of that, those who are getting paid off of them, how is that not capitalistic greed? The playing field is not level. And two, they say there are so many student athletes that it's impossible to pay them all, meaning that the freshman lacrosse players at Mount Union not having a budget to be able to pay them like you would somebody on the swim team at Ohio State. You know what I mean? Like, I guess it's different levels or whatever the case may be. I'm saying this. There's enough money to go around that you could pay a guy like a Nick Saban 3 times over, or AD at Ohio State like Gene Smith 5 times over. That while in school, you can set up. Now, you don't have to pay them in the same fashion and form of fashion that an NFL player might be paid. He gets a check, okay?
Right.
You can still maintain the quote-unquote student-athlete persona by maybe, when I said setting up a trust fund, maybe setting up some sort of, savings account or something that they can draw from while they're going to school, but on a card, so they don't actually see any money. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? And that this card can only be used for, books, food. You get you can buy maybe a pair of shoes or something. In other words, they have to add. With the amount of money that these coaches are making, and all of these administrators and folks that's in charge, or whoever runs the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever, it is far and beyond or far and above what these guys, what the cost or the value of an education is supposed to be. It's high time that they give all of these. They need to figure out a way to get all of these kids something while they're in school, and stop penalizing them like they did a Chris Webber. You get what I'm saying? For asking, if I go and buy your son and he's at Duke, a McDonald's hamburger, but the person behind the counter that took our order knows Mike Krzyzewski or who knows Duke folk at Duke University, they can call him and say, this guy just bought Michael Johnson a hamburger.
Right.
Now we got
and his whole career. His whole career
is in jeopardy. Exactly. His whole career is in jeopardy. You see what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the fat cats on the other side, they steadily counting checks. You understand what I'm saying? They like the warden in Shawshank Redemption. Hurry up now. It's getting late. I need you to get them books ready. You get what I'm trying to tell you?
Right.
No, man. It's high time that they be compensated, man.
Certainly.
In some shape, form, or fashion.
And they're already, listen, outside of the college football element, like again, with you as a person, me as a person having family, there's all types of ways to be compensated. Every year, you probably get a packet, right? I remember when I was working at a company, I would get this packet every year. This packet would show me how much that they paid me in terms of what I seen in my check. Then it showed me the cost of the health insurance that I pay, how much I paid for my health insurance,
right.
How much they paid for me. It was called a compensation package. It was always more money in that package than ever ended up in my check. Now, I'd like to say, hey, don't pay that for me. Let me take care of that myself and bring it to me, of course. But the point is, there are all types of mechanisms to be paid, to be compensated, that you saying your scholarship is enough and your stipend is enough while I'm making money off of, like, listen, tell me then, how do you rationalize a number 5 jersey being sold for Alabama or for Michigan or for Michigan State, knowing that person who wears number 5 on a day-to-day will never see a dime of that?
And you know what? I'm glad you said that too. Think of it along the lines of the model used for your everyday businesses, manufacturing companies.
Right.
In regards to employer-employee. They have a fund set up for employer-employee, right?
Right.
For your Joe Schmo, right?
Right.
It's called 401k.
Yeah. You
make a contribution as an employee, and the employer matches that contribution, correct?
Yeah, to a certain percent. Yeah, exactly.
So, theoretically speaking, philosophically speaking, the college athlete, regardless of stature, is technically the employee.
Right. And he is contributing to the bottom line by performing. Saturdays. Right.
You see what I'm saying? And then on the other side, the employers, the NCAA and the college coaches and coordinators and so on and so forth. Get what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, again, we're going to go back and put the NCAA at the top of everybody.
Okay.
Established like the NCAA was established as a governing body should establish some sort of trust or some sort of open up a fund. You get what I mean? Like I would for a kid of mine and say to my wife, okay, I've opened up this fund for X kid. You're going to put, as his mother, going to put so much in. And I, as his father, is going to put so much more in. You see what I'm saying? It has to come from both sides. You get what I'm trying to tell you? The player is doing he or she is making his contributions 3 times over. You understand what I'm saying? When you mentioned earlier, they got to be a student and an athlete.
Right.
All Nick Saban got to do is be a coach. All Urban Meyer got to do is just be a coach. Now, I'm not minimizing or dismissing it. You understand what I'm saying? But in other words, I'm saying the administrators and the coaches and the coordinators, and they only got one job.
I guess my point is
the player, the student athlete has 2.
Yeah, I guess my point is
Hold on, and let me say this.
Yeah.
And the value of an education don't pay for that.
Correct.
The bottom line, it does not equal that student athlete having to do 2 jobs.
Be a student and be an athlete.
Get paid.
Right.
Got to get paid, man. It's high time for them to get paid, man. But again, due to capitalistic greed, because in and of itself or by itself, I don't think there's anything wrong with capitalism.
Right.
Like I don't see nothing wrong with
inherently
it's bad government.
Right. Listen, I don't inherently see a problem with the coaches and the salaries that they make. What it proves to me is the money is there to pay the players as well. That's what I'm saying. And only when we talk about playing the players do they act like the money ain't there or it's immoral or it can't be done or it compromises integrity and all the excuses that don't seem to apply when you give somebody $11 million to have people work for the experience.
So the narrative changes then when we're talking about giving the worker his just due. You get what I'm saying? As opposed to the guy he's working for. Oh, sort of like our political system. Get what I'm
Right.
saying? You know what I
Right.
mean? You're going to put in a new tax reform. So you're going to redo the tax code and whatever the case may be. But in the end, when you're all said and done with it, if you really dive into it or really put your glasses on and take a look at it, you see ain't nothing really changed, because those who already have are getting the benefits, whereas those who don't have got to work twice as hard to get a pat on the back. And this is somehow justified by saying what? Oh, it's the rules. It's the
It's the
law.
rule. It's the
Yeah,
way it's
okay.
been.
Hey, listen, again, ain't nobody saying there's nothing wrong with order. Nothing. But whoever put them in order, if they already have a predisposition, now the order that they are in is unjust or just is the question.
Right.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about these NFL playoffs upcoming.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's about to get real. Yes, sir.
Is it really about to get real? Are you sure about that?
Man, listen, there is a team that I think people are talking about. They're getting a lot of buzz, and I think this would be a perfect time for a swan song for this one team and this one player and one organization in particular. And I hope they can do it.
Okay. Well, let's go through the rundown of games this upcoming weekend.
All right.
Because now we're in our divisional rounds, if you would.
Okay.
Let me preface what I'm about to say by saying, although it's died down somewhat, it doesn't have the same amount of steam that it once did. I'm still torn about discussing the NFL due to the Colin Kaepernick situation. But in light of some information, and I don't have it with me right now, unfortunately, but the next time we go and we do some NFL talk, I'll make sure I have the information in regards to Kaepernick that came out or that was brought to my attention that I didn't know prior to this protest and so on and so forth. And it's something in regards to some monies or contracts or something he turned down or whatever. And I'm kind of upset at him about that or whatever it is. Sort of puts a chink in the armor of the protest. But nonetheless, just the protest in and of itself, man, and what it stood for and what I understood it to stand for. I'm kind of torn about discussing the NFL, but we like to cover all bases or whatever it is. So we'll not necessarily go into no long, drawn-out detail, but just to add it to today's lineup or whatever in regards to topics we will discuss in general, so to speak. So I said all of that to say we're going to touch on it, but we're not going to stay on it. All right? Does that make any sense? Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So we're going to start with, of course, the NFC divisional round. No, we'll do NFC's divisional round and then an AFC and then another NFC and so on and so forth. Okay.
Gotcha.
So this Saturday, January 13th at 4:35 p.m., the Falcons go to meet the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let me say this right quick. First off, let me ask you: who you think who wins and why?
The Falcons win that game. And unfortunately, it's because of the absence of Carson Wentz for the Eagles. Having a backup being Nick Foles, I think it's very disruptive. I think that he can do well. The Eagles have been very good outside of Carson Wentz, but I just feel like with Atlanta having a chip on the shoulder from last year, putting things together, I feel like that there's going to be too much firepower late, that Nick Foles will have to do something that I think Carson Wentz is more capable of in keeping them in the game offensively, either managing drives or getting scores, that I don't think it's going to be able to happen. And I think Atlanta's going to take advantage of that and win that game.
Okay. All right. I can see that pick, but I am not necessarily saying one way or another which team will win, but I'll say what each team needs to do in order to win.
Okay.
The Falcons are an enigma to a certain degree.
All right.
You don't know which Falcons team is going to show up. Now, do they have what they have or need on offense in order to win a playoff game? Yes.
Right.
Especially with Julio Jones, and Sanu and I can't think of Devontae Freeman, the running back or whatnot. Yeah, they got weapons over there. But Matt Ryan has been up and down since the departure of Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. Now, in the Falcons' defense, there too, you don't know which team is going to show up. But are they capable of winning in Philadelphia? Yes. And beating the Eagles? Yes. Without Carson Wentz? Yes, again. But here, let me say this about the Eagles. The Eagles win this game if the coordinators or whoever put in the offensive game plan understands, like Hugh Jackson for the Browns didn't with Deshaun Kaiser, you know that in Knowles you don't have what you do in Wentz.
Okay.
So they have to design a game plan that whereas with Wentz it might have been a little bit different, but put together a game plan with Knowles that emphasizes the run game with Ajayi. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And doesn't allow Knowles. In other words, Knowles can't. Whoever put together the game plan, Knowles cannot throw the ball 40 some odd times a game. I don't care what the situation is. You get what I'm trying to tell you? You cannot do it. They'll get in trouble. He's not Wentz. That's what I mean. Whereas Wentz could throw the ball 40, 50 times, and you could run it maybe 20, 15, 20, and still have a chance to win, especially having home field advantage, so to speak. If the Eagles come out and ask Knowles to do what they would ask Wentz to do, it's not going to look good for him. If the Falcons come out and Matty Ice is like the stock market, it's not going to look good for them either. And by the way, I will make a prediction. I say Eagles by 3. Now, moving on to the AFC's divisional round, Jacksonville at the Steelers. Sunday, January 14th. 1:05 p.m. That's past midnight, y'all. What say you? Who wins?
Past midday. That's past midday.
Okay, got you. Anyway, go ahead. Who wins? You. Okay, now you're talking to me like you got your shoes on the wrong feet. Go ahead. Who wins?
Well, it's hard to not pick the Steelers to win that game and advance to a conference championship again. It's hard because I'm not certain what I'm not certain what Jacksonville can do with that stellar defense to exploit that the Steelers won't be able to stabilize and won't be able to counter, if you will. Le'Veon Bell is going to be a problem. I don't care how good the defense is for Jacksonville. Le'Veon Bell is going to be a problem. And then you still got Big Ben, who's the master of the broken play. For a defense like Jacksonville, they have great schemes and great attacking points. But again, Ben Roethlisberger, like I say, he's the master of the broken play. Expect for that to break down and collapse and him to be there and the Steelers to be able to manage this game effectively and run away with it. I don't think this was going to be close.
Okay. Unlike the previous game we were just talking about,
right?
I thought basically would amounted to a pick 'em. This one
okay.
I am picking, and
All
I
right.
picked the Steelers. Basically
okay.
for the same reasons that you did. However, let me say, Jacksonville's defense is legit.
Certainly.
But unlike the Ravens of 2000 and maybe the Bears in 85, because there's only been a handful that you might be able to mention, this Jacksonville defense will not survive its offense's ineptitude.
Got you.
Blake Bortles, to me, is trash. Now, I didn't say garbage, because garbage is food that done expired that you done threw away that's stinking.
All right.
Trash is Trash is a bunch of papers and stuff all over, everywhere, and you just tired of looking at it, so you got to take out the trash. You get what I'm saying? Trash are those things that don't stink when you take them outside. But Leonard Fournette is Leonard Fournette is Leonard Fournette. They have all of the offensive weaponry, if you would, in place. But Blake Bortles will not look against the Steelers in Pittsburgh the way he has looked over the last 5 or 6, 7 weeks or whatever it is. I think that's an anomaly. That's not the norm for him. He's good for at least a pick or two. And in the game against the Steelers, that's a mistake he just can't afford. He can't afford to have an interception. Now, on the flip side, though, on the flip side, Jalen Ramsey, the corner for the Jaguars, he's the truth. You understand what I'm saying? And Ben, too, here lately has been known to, I won't say throw a pick six, but, throw a pick. You know what I mean? And Jalen Ramsey is the kind of guy who can take it back to the house or whatever. But in the end, I just say that the Steelers win this because they've been here. They battle tested. They've been here before. It's been a long time since Jacksonville has. But who knows? Tom Coughlin might be able to say something that, hey, get these guys a W in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's not impossible, but I don't think it's probable.
I mean, this guy has won 2 Super Bowls, right? Coughlin has coached to 2 Super Bowls, so he certainly's got that experience. It'll be great for him. I think it'll be great experience, great building blocks for next season where once they figure some things out, get stronger, they'll be a formidable force next season.
All right, so let's finish things out here right quick with the Titans at the Patriots.
Right.
I don't really know. I mean, this is a Saturday also, but it's the later game at 8 o'clock, 8:15 p.m. past midnight. Did you catch that? Anyway, you're a little late on it.
If you're in London, it's past midnight. You're right.
I was being facetious.
If you're in London,
I was being facetious. Right. Anyway, I think the Titans will look good in this game, but I don't think that they'll beat the Patriots because some are already got the Patriots penciled in on the AFC side in this upcoming Super Bowl. The Titans are interesting because they do have a running game. I think Derrick Henry is out. Who's
okay?
DeMarco Murray, I'm sorry, is out.
DeMarco Murray is out, yes.
Yeah, he's out for this game. Mariota, the book is still out on him. It will be hard.
Man, the man can throw his own and catch his own TD passes, okay? I'm sold on Mariota.
Yeah, right.
I'm sold on him.
Well, that's my point, though. If you think that's going to win your game, playing up against these Patriots, if that's what you got to do to win, to resort to, what they call Keystone Coppery, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And
for the Titans, I say this. For the Titans, have fun and play with reckless abandon. I think the Patriots have an axe to grind, especially with the non-news that became news about perhaps discord, if you will, between Belichick and Brady and Robert Kraft. But they're still the defending Super Bowl champs. They're still a Class A organization with not very many holes that the Titans can exploit. The Titans can have fun, play with reckless abandon, and they could probably make it a good game for a half or two. And then we never know late. I mean, anything can happen any given Sunday, right? I've seen teams 9-7 go to a Super Bowl, but then again, I don't think these Titans are those New York Giants of 2012. So that's my prescription for them.
All right, and then lastly, the Saints and the Vikings, and we're gonna wrap things up here. I'll just say right quick, the Vikings, to me, have the best defense in the NFL, period, at this point. And if the Saints get past the Vikings, I think they represent the NFC in this year's Super Bowl.
I am rooting so bad for Drew Brees to have a swan song and win the Super Bowl, go all the way. I think that what we saw last week is you take away a weapon. Like, understand this. The backfield tandem that the Saints had was a weapon. It wasn't like, you remember the year the Packers won the Super Bowl, they beat the Steelers, and the run game was sort of, they ran as much as they passed with Aaron Rodgers, but the run game was pretty productive. It was just enough to kind of force you to dedicate, to the run and the pass. The Saints had a bona fide weapon that was taken away from him, and he beat the Panthers with his arm. You took away a weapon. Now, I don't think that's going to happen again with Sean Payton and the offense. I think they'll be effective again, even versus the Vikings. But add to that the fact that Drew Brees is playing as great as he's ever been. He's as accurate as he's ever been. And I think that they have enough momentum to go ahead and run the table and go ahead and go to the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening to the Shot Report. Check us out on Facebook, iTunes, Twitter. Is there anything else you want to add? You're supposed to say YouTube, man. Well, anyway.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, right. Anyway, well, if that don't work, Google it. For Barbershop J and D Gully, I say, this was the Shot Report.